My adopted daughter, Miriam, was the prettiest girl at her school. She'd loved ballet since she was a child, and I spared no expense on her passion, hiring the most renowned ballet teachers and taking her to one competition after another. At only 16, she was performing on the international stage. But then she gave it all up, even dropping out of school, to be with the resident school bully, Jason. With no other choice, I sent her abroad to continue her studies. But when Miriam returned, successful and accomplished, her first act was to accuse me of sexual assault and have me sent to prison. The day I was released, she had people drag me to a deserted field and beat me to death. She claimed I had ruined her youth and desecrated her undying love for Jason. Reborn, I chose not to interfere with her life this time. When I snapped back to reality, Miriam was kissing Jason right in front of my car. His hand was slowly inching up her shirt, and it looked like they were about to get started right on the hood. I laid on the horn. The two of them jumped, but when they saw it was me, they went right back to clinging to each other. Miriam frowned, her eyes filled with disgust. "Uncle Edward, didn't I tell you not to pick me up today?" "Is that so?" I touched my wrist, which was still intact. The pain of having my limbs severed in my past life remained vivid. "So, are you coming home with me now, or will you find your own way back tonight?" I gave her one last chance to choose. Holding Jason's arm, Miriam said, "I'm not going home tonight." Jason, with his bleached blonde hair, wrapped an arm around her and said with a smirk, "Don't you worry, sir. I'll take real good care of Miriam." Without a moment's hesitation, I got in my car and drove off. Miriam was my benefactor's granddaughter. Without his help, I would have never made it out of the impoverished mountain town I grew up in. After he passed away, I adopted Miriam out of gratitude, doing everything in my power to give her the best. She said she loved ballet, so I hired the most renowned instructors and took her to perform on every stage I could. Later, she fell for Jason and wanted to be with him, and for the first time, I refused her. To keep them apart, I sent her overseas to continue her education. I helped her achieve success and fame, but she hated me to her very core. The day she returned, she stood by the car in an expensive gown, coldly watching as my hands and feet were severed. She looked down on me, her eyes dripping with contempt. "Edward, does it hurt? Compared to Jason being beaten to death, your pain isn't even a tenth of his. His death had nothing to do with me." I tried to explain with the last of my strength, still making excuses. Miriam's stiletto heel ground into my wrist. "If you hadn't forced me to go abroad, why would Jason have borrowed from loan sharks to find me? How could he have been beaten to death?" I wanted to laugh, but only coughed up blood. Jason borrowed from loan sharks because of his gambling debts. He wanted to find her abroad to get money from her to pay them off. But none of that mattered anymore. I had saved her twice, and in return, I died a brutal death twice. Now, I consider my debt repaid. Miriam didn't come home for a week. A week later, she called. "Uncle Edward, I'm out of money. Send me another $5,000. I frowned. "Didn't I just give you this month's $10,000 allowance?" A scoff came from the other end of the line. "Dating costs money, not that you'd understand. Anyway, just wire the money to my account." After she spoke, she must have thought she'd hung up, but the line was still open, and I could faintly hear their conversation. "Hey, don't be mad. He'll send the money over soon. As soon as I get it, I'll buy you that pair of Jordans you wanted. You were pretty harsh with him. You sure he'll still give you the money?" "Of course. You have no idea. My grandpa did him one small favor years ago, and he's been eternally grateful ever since. He does whatever I say. He's a total pushover. Does that make you my little pushover?" "Oh, stop it." I hung up the phone and went back to the contract in front of me. I felt that spending any more of my energy on a person like that was a complete waste. In my past two lives, a friend, Leo, had wanted to partner with me to invest in short-form web series, but back then, all my money was tied up in Miriam. This time, I contacted Leo and proposed the investment myself. He was as ecstatic as if he'd struck gold. At the time, web series were a new industry, and most people were still on the sidelines. But I knew that within 2 years, it would be a massive success. I was using my memories of the future to select scripts when Miriam called again. "Uncle Edward, did you not understand me? I need you to send me $5,000 right now." "Why?" I asked. "When I first started working, my monthly salary was only $5,000. You're a student. $10,000 a month should be more than enough. See, I told you that you wouldn't get it. Just send the money," Miriam said, her voice laced with annoyance. I took a breath and decided to set things straight. "Miriam, until you turn 19, I will continue to give you $10,000 on the first of every month. Not a penny more." Miriam paused. "If you don't give me the money, I'll drop out and get a job." In my past two lives, this was her pattern. It started with 5,000, then 10, 50, 100,000. The requests became more frequent, the amounts larger. If I couldn't provide it, she would threaten to drop out. Now, hearing the same threat again, I tapped my fingers on the table and said calmly, "As you wish." In the end, Miriam didn't drop out. This time, with no one forcing her to study, she actually buckled down a bit. However, she also started skipping class frequently and even picked up smoking. Her teacher called me, asking me to come to the school when I had a chance. The day I went, I saw Jason and a group of his buddies hanging around the front gate. With a cigarette cigarette dangling from his lips, Jason pointed at Miriam, who was serving detention on the athletic field. What do you think? Hot, right? The redhead next to him grinned sleazily. You're the man, Jason, bagging the school queen. I hear she's a dancer. So is she flexible? You want to know? You can find out for yourself after I'm done with her. I grabbed Jason by the collar and threw him aside. Who the hell do you think you are? I dusted off my hands and walked through the school gates. Well, look who it is. An old man who's got it bad for his own adopted daughter. I stopped, turned, and grabbed him by the throat, shoving his head into the fountain near the entrance. A filthy mind sees filth everywhere. You should give that brain of yours a good wash. Jason's face turned red as he choked and flailed. Miriam told me you follow her around like a puppy. You're either obsessed with her or just pathetic. Uncle Edward, let him go. Miriam ran over and shoved me away, cupping Jason's face with concern. I straightened my sleeves and watched them both coldly. The dean of students came down, gave him a stern lecture, and then hauled him upstairs. Due to her misconduct, Miriam was suspended and told to stay home for a week to reflect on her actions. But she didn't go home with me. Instead, she asked for $20,000. Didn't you say you'd give me $10,000 a month? Just give me $20,000 now, and I won't ask for anything for the next 2 months. Deal. I transferred her the $20,000 on the spot. She seemed surprised that I agreed so readily, without even asking why. The truth was, I just didn't care anymore. I was busy overseeing the new web series and had no time to deal with her. A month later, I came home one night to find the place a wreck. Miriam was huddled in a corner, her clothes disheveled. The moment she saw me, she rushed forward. This is all your fault. Why did you make me learn ballet? Now my toes are all deformed, and Jason thinks they're disgusting. It's all your fault. I stared at Miriam, astonished at how shameless a person could be. Miriam, weren't you the one who said girls who dance ballet are like angels? Weren't you the one who insisted on learning? Miriam was stunned for a moment before she started screaming again. But you're the one who gave me that $20,000. If you hadn't given me the money, I wouldn't have gotten the surgery on my toes. Now the surgery is botched, and the doctor says I might walk with a limp for the rest of my life. I looked at her coldly. I finally understood why her grandfather had chosen to donate his massive fortune to an orphanage instead of leaving a single penny to his own granddaughter. Because some people are simply beyond help. I grabbed her arm and pushed her aside. Miriam, in 2 months, you will be 19. Her face was streaked with tears, her heavy makeup a smeared mess, but she still managed to ask, so what? You've been a legal adult for almost a year. I'm no longer your guardian, but I am willing to support you through college. It took Miriam a moment to process what I was saying. You mean in 2 months, you're kicking me out? I nodded. Edward, you ungrateful bastard. If my grandfather hadn't paid for your education, do you think you'd even be standing here talking to me? I knelt and tucked a stray lock of her hair behind her ear. You're right, I wouldn't be. It was your grandfather who supported me, not you. I stood up, unwilling to waste another second on her. But she grabbed my shirt. Edward, Uncle Edward, what's wrong with you? You never used to be like this with me. I nodded in agreement. You're right, that was the old me. But you've already killed that version of me twice. The day Miriam finished her final high school exams, I packed up all her belongings and sent them to the address she'd given me. She hadn't been back since our last fight. I heard she and Jason had gotten back together. On the day we officially terminated the adoption, I sincerely wished them a long and happy life together. Then I threw myself back in my work. The web series I invested in had only aired 5 episodes, and it had already cleared $3 million in revenue. Leo was so excited he insisted on taking me out to celebrate. If before he looked at me like a talent scout who'd found a star, now he looked at me like I was his own father. From now on, you're my dad. If you say go east, I won't even glance west. Leo hiccuped and sighed. But seriously, anyone you took under your wing would be the luckiest person alive. How could someone not appreciate that? I mean, I watched Miriam grow up. You were so good to her. I remember that time the city flooded and all the roads were closed. She insisted on having a cake from that bakery in downtown Chicago, and you waded through waist-deep water for 5 hours to get it for her. And what about that time she saw a movie and decided she had to meet the star? How many strings did you pull? How much money did you spend to make that happen? I just smiled, clinked his glass, and finished my drink. It's all in the past. That night, Leo drank a lot, and so did I. When I got home, I collapsed onto the bed and passed out. When I woke up the next day, I realized someone else was in my bed. Miriam was curled up under the blanket, completely naked. My own clothes were gone. She clutched the blanket to her chest, looking at me with a pitiful expression. Uncle Edward, I just came back to grab something yesterday. I saw you'd fallen asleep without a blanket, so I came in to cover you, and then her eyes reddened, and then you pulled me down and wouldn't let me leave. I was confused. Aside from the fact that I was blackout drunk last night and physically couldn't have done anything, even if I'd had the inclination, she would have been the last person on my mind. What did you come back for? I already sent all of your things to you, I asked with a frown. I lived here for 13 years. Isn't it normal that I might have left something behind? She stammered, biting her lip. I nodded and got out of bed to get dressed. And did you find it? Miriam hummed an absent-minded minded yes. Good, now get out. What? Miriam stared, her voice suddenly sharp. Edward, we slept together last night. Aren't you going to take responsibility? I picked her outlandish outfit off the floor and tossed it at her. If I had actually slept with you, I said, enunciating every word, I would take responsibility. Her expression softened slightly. That's more like it, she sniffed. All right, you can give me $100,000 a month for living expenses, and I'll consider. Miriam, I cut her off. Listen carefully. I said if. Then I showed her the security footage I had just pulled up on my phone. In the video, Miriam tiptoed in, stripped my clothes off, then took off her own and climbed into my bed. Miriam's face went white. Edward, she shrieked. You have cameras in your own bedroom? He don't. In fact, I had installed them specifically for her. She used to sneak home from school, and I worried about her being alone, so I installed cameras in every room of the house except for hers. You're a pervert. Her plan having failed, Miriam muttered a curse, threw on her clothes, and ran out. I heard from Leo that Miriam hadn't gotten into a university or even a community college. Instead, she was a regular at a nightclub one of his friends owned, but no longer cared about any of that. I was focused on one thing, making money. Because I had been reborn, I could accurately predict future market trends. The web series was just the beginning. I used the profits to buy myself a new G-Wagon. Every man loves cars, and after 2 lifetimes, I was finally living for myself. I had just finalized an investment in a new film and was on my way to meet the producer. As I pulled up to the restaurant, I saw Miriam. She was dressed provocatively, with heavy makeup, getting out of a luxury car. 2 girls about her age were standing at the entrance. They looked at Miriam with disdain, but their words were sweet. Wow, our school queen is really on another level. No college, but still living the high life. Seriously, even after we graduate, we could work our whole lives and never afford a car like that. Miriam lifted her chin and waved a dismissive hand. We're all old friends here. Let everyone know today's get-together is on me. I glanced at the expensive car behind her. Had Jason changed his ways? Or had he been reborn too? How else could he afford a car like that? Just then, a man in his late 40s got out of the car, sporting a receding hairline and a prominent beer belly. His hand immediately went to Miriam's waist and stayed there, occasionally giving her a squeeze. Leo nudged me. Isn't it the producer we're meeting tonight? To be honest, Leo always set up these meetings. I just had to show up. He's the extrovert. I'm the introvert. If he hadn't pointed it out, I wouldn't have recognized the man. I was hesitating about getting out of the car when a group of kids Miriam's age came out of the restaurant, probably to gawk at the school queen's grand entrance. Miriam looked uncomfortable under their stares and pushed the man's hand off her waist. Honey, don't you have that meeting to get to? I should head inside too. The man chuckled, whispered something in her ear, and then walked into the lobby. Seeing that the producer had gone in, I felt it would be rude to keep him waiting any longer, so I followed. But then I heard Miriam's cloying voice call out from behind me. Uncle Edward. Miriam swayed over in her high heels. Now that she was away from the man, her arrogance returned, as if she'd bought all her luxury clothes herself. Uncle Leo, you're here too. She smiled contemptuously. Are you two having dinner here as well? Leo just grunted. This restaurant is members only, you know? You need a black card to get in. Miriam flashed her card with feigned sympathy. But if you two really want to see what it's like inside, I suppose I could get you in. Leo looked at me, puzzled, and whispered, isn't the black card for this place just a $50,000 deposit? Is that supposed to be a big deal? Ah, Mr. Miller, Mr. Harrison, such an honor. The producer must have heard the commotion and came back out, shaking our hands enthusiastically. He glanced at Miriam and asked awkwardly, I heard Miss Adams call you uncle just now. Is she your niece? Miriam looked between the 3 of us, shocked, and was about to nod when Leo quickly waved his hands. No, I certainly don't have a niece like that. I smiled. We used to have an adoptive relationship, but that has since been terminated. A murmur went through the lobby as more people gathered to watch. Miriam stood frozen at the entrance, her face shifting from pale to red to green. Just then, a man charged out and shoved Miriam to the ground. You damn cheat. How dare you sneak around behind my back? The man had platinum blonde hair and arms covered in tattoos. It was Jason. Miriam, stunned, trembled on the ground. I swear. Jason grabbed her by the collar and slapped her hard before kicking her repeatedly. I told you to give me money. Where is it? Huh? Jason, let me explain. Miriam curled up on the ground, her right hand shielding her stomach. Don't, please, the baby. Someone in the crowd gasped. Oh my God, she's bleeding. Stop. You're gonna kill her. Jason's eyes were bloodshot. He seemed to hear nothing. I'm gonna kill this bitch. I'm gonna kill her. Miriam was rushed to the hospital. Leo asked the producer, aren't you gonna go see her? The producer just chuckled and waved his hand dismissively. I only met the girl a week ago. She looked a bit like my late wife, so I thought I'd get to know her. We're not that close. How much of that was true? I couldn't say. The drama at the entrance didn't affect our business deal. I did, however, end up at the hospital that night. Leo had alcohol poisoning. While I was downstairs paying the bill, I ran into Miriam in a hospital gown. Uncle Edward. Her face was ghost white as she stumbled toward me. Please, you have to help me. She clutched my shirt, sobbing. Jason demands money from me every day. If I don't have it, he beats me. He sells me to other men. Miriam, these were your choices. They have nothing to do with me. I pried her fingers off one by one, but she lunged at me again. Uncle Edward, I was wrong. Please, send me abroad. I'll study hard. I'll practice my ballet, I promise. I looked at her, surprised. This time around, I hadn't sent her abroad, hadn't even mentioned it. Why would she suddenly bring that up? Could it be that she too? Miriam, you bitch. You better hope I don't find you. Jason's furious voice echoed down the hall. Miriam panicked and dropped to her knees, begging. Uncle Edward, I wasn't thinking straight before. I was wrong. Please, save me. You came to the hospital to see me. That means you still care about me, right? I laughed. I suddenly understood why she had resented me in my 2 past lives, no matter what I did. A person is selfish as her thinks only of herself. She doesn't deserve to be saved. I pushed her away. Miriam, this is the path you chose. Good luck. After that, I didn't see Miriam for a long time. Leo was busy running the company, so I left it in his capable hands. Who wouldn't want a life where the money just rolls in? But once I had enough, I felt like something was missing. Leo said I needed a woman, or more accurately, a family. Then I met the famous actress, Lily. She was an extraordinary woman, so extraordinary that I wanted to finance a film just for her. And I did. Lily was the star, but the supporting roles were still open. I went to the casting call, and on the list of finalists, I saw a familiar name, Miriam. The fact that she had made it through multiple rounds of auditions meant she must have some talent. If she was truly capable, I wasn't going to hold our past against her. As I walked past the actors' waiting area, I overheard a few of them talking. Miriam, I heard the investor this time is your uncle. Doesn't that mean the supporting role is basically yours? Of course it is. Miriam's voice was smug. Forget the supporting role. Maybe she'll be the lead. Hey, Miriam, when you get it, don't forget to put in a good word for us with your uncle. So that was her plan. When it was Miriam's turn, she stepped into the spotlight. She was undeniably beautiful, but this industry is full of beautiful people. And after spending so much time in those clubs, she had a jaded air about her that she couldn't wash away. On top of that, her acting was atrocious. She couldn't even get her lines out without stumbling. I raised my hand to stop her terrible performance. Miriam's face lit up and she smiled coyly. Uncle Edward, did you come all this way just to see me? She put extra emphasis on the word uncle, making sure everyone in the room knew we had a connection. I picked up the megaphone and announced, I'm here to make sure no one gets a role through backdoor deals. Miriam's face paled, but she tried to recover. I was just a little nervous because I knew you were here. Your audition is over. Please leave. Why? Miriam feigned innocence, looking toward the director, Mr. Thompson, for help. Mr. Thompson glanced nervously at me, then slammed his hand on the table. Get her out of here, and she's not to audition for any of my projects in the future. What right do you have? Miriam finally dropped the act and tried to lunge at us, but security guards stopped her. Director Thompson, didn't you promise me that if I made it to the final round, the part was mine? Don't talk nonsense. Director Thompson backed away, then turned to me with an apologetic smile. Don't listen to her. I don't even know her. Oh, so you and Edward are in on this together. You're just trying to humiliate me. Is that it? Miriam was dragged out by security, but we could still hear her screaming. Edward, you heartless bastard. You'll regret this. I never paid any mind to Miriam's threats. However, on the opening day of Lily's new film, I was trending on Twitter. Miriam had accused me of sexual assault. It seemed that no matter how many times I was reborn, some things were destined to happen. In my past life, Miriam was successful and beloved with countless supporters. I, on the other hand, had gone bankrupt trying to pay for her education abroad and satisfy her every whim. She hired the best lawyers, produced security footage of us in physical contact, and used the court of public opinion to brand me a predator. The conviction came swiftly, and I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. This time, however, Miriam was notorious and broke. She couldn't get into my house, let alone obtain any surveillance footage. With no evidence and no money for a lawyer, she couldn't even file a case. So she turned to public opinion. She claimed I had harbored improper intentions toward her since childhood, but she had been too young and scared to resist. Now that she was an adult and free from my control, she was finally brave enough to expose my crimes. Her evidence was a single blurry photo of us lying naked in bed together. It must have been taken that night after her graduation party when I was passed out drunk. It was the only evidence Miriam had, but her beauty and her tearful performance were enough to win some people's sympathy. The story spread like wildfire online. Soon, Lily heard about it. I wasn't flustered by Miriam's accusation, but when I faced Lily, I panicked. I was terrified she would misunderstand, yet I knew any explanation would sound feeble. But Lily's reaction surprised me. She didn't question me about Miriam at all. Instead, she simply asked if I needed her help. A warmth spread through my chest, and I wondered how I could have overlooked such a wonderful woman in my past 2 lives. But I still had to ask her, do you believe me? After all, I did raise her for 13 years. Lily just scoffed. It's a childish prank. If I didn't trust you, I never would have gotten involved with you in the first place. A month later, later, Miriam and I were in court. But this time, she was the one on trial for defamation. She wore a tattered sweater. Her face was gaunt and her lip was bruised. Seeing her, I felt like I was looking at myself years ago, standing in that same defendant's box. But things had changed. Now, I was the plaintiff. I had the best lawyer in the country by my side, and my fiancé was sitting in the gallery. This time, I wasn't the one who would lose everything. For malicious defamation causing severe harm, Miriam was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Before they led her away, she suddenly laughed. "Uncle Edward, can I ask you one more question?" She leaned in close and whispered, "This is the 3rd lifetime, and you still haven't settled down. Isn't it because you're in love with me?" No, it was true that in the past, I hadn't started a family because of her. I'd spent all my time and energy on her. Some women pursued me back then, but they were all scared off when they heard about my unruly adopted daughter. But Miriam seemed to ignore my answer, her voice catching as she spoke. "When I was little, I said I liked cotton candy, and you bought out the entire amusement park supply for me. Later, even after you said you were cutting me off, you still came to visit me secretly in the hospital. You were jealous when you saw me with Jason. That's why you tried so hard to break us up. Edward, is it really that hard to admit you love me? If you just admit it, I might even consider—" "Excuse me," coming through. A cool, clear voice cut in as a woman pushed through the crowd and took my arm. Miriam's eyes widened as she pointed at Lily, then back at me, before bursting into manic laughter. "Edward, I know you have money, but hiring a famous actress just to make me jealous? And you still claim you don't love me?" Out of the camera's sight, Lily rolled her eyes. Then she turned to the bailiffs. "That young woman over there, I suggest you get her a psychiatric evaluation. I suspect she has erotomania." Lily's simple act melted away the weight in my heart. I put my arm around her shoulder and, ignoring Miriam's screams and struggles, led her out of the crowd. Lily and I got married and had 2 lovely daughters. The name Miriam had long since faded from my life, a ghost that only existed in my past. One day, as I was taking out the recycling, I saw a woman with 2 small children digging through the trash cans. I happened to have a stack of cardboard boxes, so I offered them to her. Her back was stooped, and greasy bangs were plastered to her forehead. She took the boxes, thanking me profusely. Then, she slowly raised her head and froze. It was Miriam. She glanced at Lily, who was standing beside me, then quickly looked away. She tried to fix her hair, but only made it look worse, and finally just gave up. She bent down, tied the boxes together, and slung them over her back. As we passed each other, she said, "Edward, this life, I didn't choose Jason, but you still didn't choose me." Watching her stooped figure disappear into the distance, I realized her erotomania was incurable. Or maybe it wasn't erotomania at all, but a case of extreme, all-consuming selfishness. A person like that could be reborn 1,000 times and never find happiness. Epilogue. When I was 6, I was adopted by a strange man. He said my grandfather had once done him a kindness. This man was very good to me, but I hated him. I knew that, just like everyone else, he only wanted me for my beauty. Later, the man grew jealous of me being with other boys, so he sent me abroad. Just like that, I was separated from Jason, and I hated him even more for it. I worked hard, improved myself, and finally came home only to learn that Jason was gone. In that moment, my hatred for the man reached its peak. I wanted him dead. I wanted him to pay for Jason's life. A filthy old man like him deserved to die in a ditch. Later, I succeeded in sending him to prison and ending his life. But I never imagined that rebirth was actually possible. When I woke up, I found Jason was still alive, and we were finally truly together. I was ecstatic, but soon everything changed. Jason changed. He started gambling and drinking. His handsome face became ugly and cruel. And most importantly, he hit me. He seemed to have forgotten every promise he ever made to me. I was so disappointed in him. So I thought of the old man who adopted me. I figured, since he loved me so much, he wouldn't be able to stand seeing me get hurt. But I was wrong. He had changed too. He became cold and ruthless, completely indifferent to my suffering. I swallowed my pride and begged him, but he still threw me out, cut off all ties, and even ruined any chance I had of making a living. In the end, he even took me to court. He truly was an ungrateful monster, destroying what he couldn't possess. As I took my last breath, I hoped that I could be reborn just one more time.